Hi, this is Larry London, and we welcome you to the Voice of America. This is Border Crossings, a very special Friday. We have a true superstar in our studios, a guy who's probably best known for his face, but today you're going to get to know him for a lot more than just his face. On the big screen, we'd like to welcome a Tony nominee, Golden Globe nominee, a true American icon. We welcome Jeff Daniels to the Voice of America. Welcome.
Thank you, Larry.
It's great to have you here. And first of all, how's the tour going?
It's going fine. I picked up a guitar about 30 years ago, and I've been writing and playing ever since. And about the last 10 years, in order to raise some money for my theater company, the Purple Rose Theater Company in Chelsea, Michigan, they pushed me out on stage and said, "Why don't you, actor boy, play your little guitar, and maybe we can raise some money." And it worked, And so that was 10 years ago. And about 8 years, the last 8 years, I've been taking it out on the road and loving it. And I'm in the middle of this kind of 45-date tour where I'm driving around the U.S. in my recreational vehicle going gig to gig. I'm having a ball.
And I know that we've tried to get you in here a couple of times. It's not always easy because it's a lot of work to put together a music career and also balance your family life and your acting career. And you're a screenwriter as well. Is there anything you can't do?
I can't tap dance.
You all right,
my wife is going, "When do the tap dance lessons start?" I'm going, "Okay, I get it. Dial it down. Got it. Pump the brakes."
Now, off the air, we were talking about, balancing singing career and an acting career. And obviously, you've had an illustrious acting career. You've been receiving all kinds of accolades and attention. Lots of people know you for all your different various films. But now you put yourself on stage with a guitar singing songs, and most of them are songs you've written yourself. Mm-hmm. Does that feel vulnerable to you? I mean,
yeah. You're completely naked because as an actor, you're out there in a film or a Broadway play or something, and there's a character, and you don't realize it at the time, but it's a filter between you and the audience. So it's kind of like a safety net. So you can kind of do it and go there emotionally and all that, but it's not really you. But when you walk out with a guitar, with no band, and just your material, presenting yourself, it's there's a nakedness to that. There's a kind of that I didn't feel in film and theater, and so that took some getting used to. I was in a flop sweat the first few times I did it, but learned how to do it, and then now I enjoy the heck out of it.
I imagine that the Broadway experience and acting, but more so in front of an audience, a stage performance stuff, has kind of prepared you for this.
What I do, I don't gaze at my navel and sing 12 songs about the meaning of life. I don't do that. I'm there to entertain, mm-hmm. And so that's where the Broadway actor, the guy who's been on television, film, he comes out, and
mm-hmm.
I at times, even though I'm just playing the guitar and I'm doing whatever I'm doing, it's a little bit like a Broadway musical number. Mm-hmm. Because if you just look at my face and watch me kind of act it out, sometimes it can. I'm going, "Oh, that's what I'm doing." A little kind of poor man's Broadway musical. That's what this is,
And your music has been described as folk. How would you yourself describe what you do, the songs that you write?
Well, folk is it's become a four-letter word, unfortunately, but it will outlive us, mm-hmm. regardless of what some think. But my stuff is kind of blues, acoustic blues, kind of influenced, certainly. The storytellers, the Arlo Guthries and the Stevie Goodmans and the John Prines, the Lyle Lovetts, those guys, John Hyatt. Mm-hmm. Folks like Cheryl Wheeler and Christine Lavin, who brought humor into it, and Stevie Goodman did that as well. A story well told, and sometimes it's musical, and sometimes it's just the setup leading into the song. That's kind of what I do, and as I look back over the decades of doing this, kind of living this creative life, it really is, that's all I am, is a storyteller, mm-hmm. a walking, talking storyteller, and sometimes it's a film or a play or with a guitar.
And the artists that you mentioned, are those artists that inspired you and that you grew up listening to?
Oh, very much so, yeah. As well as guys like Stefan Grossman, who is an incredible acoustic guitar player and teacher, and Keb Mo as well. All of those guys have helped me, and sometimes literally sat in the room and said, no, play this way, that way. And so it's guys like that teach you that the guitar is a treasure. A musical instrument is a gift, and it does keep giving. And every day I find something new in it.
And I read in the paper the reviews of your show last night here in the Washington, D.C. area, and your tour in general, that you do tell a lot of stories, and you are funny. You tell a lot of funny stories, humanistic stories, and occasionally you've brought your daughter on the stage with you. Is she with you on this tour?
No, she's not. But there is a song that I do about every parent's nightmare. I think when your child, in this case my daughter, gets her learner's permit to drive, and it makes no sense to me that you. They let you drive around for a couple of weekends. The kids drive around some orange cones in a parking lot for a couple of weekends. And the next thing you know, they're at home with this pink piece of paper going, I get to ride shotgun, for the next year. I don't get that. Right. Don't understand that. So, yeah, I wrote a song about that.
Having an 11-year-old, I'm looking forward to that day myself.
It's a special kind of hell, yeah.
Jeff Daniels is our guest here on The Voice of America. Not only is he a talented actor, tremendously talented singer and songwriter as well. And if you wouldn't mind, we'd like to ask you to do a song for us right now so that the people all around the world who are tuned in can hear you live in the studio.
All right. I did a movie with Clint Eastwood called Bloodwork. And in the movie, I got to play the bad guy. And when Clint has a gun, and you're the bad guy in a movie with Clint, pretty good chance you're going to get shot and killed by Clint Eastwood, which for an actor is a great honor. So that happened. He literally just, I even had my own little make my day death line. The last thing he said before he pulled the trigger on me was, I never liked you, buddy. Which with Clint, that's like foreplay. So I went back to the trailer and wrote this. Well, I've had more than my share of brushes with greatness, but with all humility, I would have to rate this as the biggest of the big, the best of them all. My dream came true with a little telephone call. At the end of my line, no joking, was the good, the bad, the ugly, the king of the unspoken. Make my day, blow me away, goddamn Dirty Harry Blues. He said, got this little project, got this little part about a serial killer with a cold heart. I said, Mr. Eastwood, I'd be so honored to play a bad guy. The only thing that'd make it better'd be if I, got to die. He said, well, if I had to guess off the top of my head, when all's said and done, one of us is gonna be dead. Make my day, blow me away. He actually said that. Dirty Harry Blue. 30-30, 44. Pull that trigger, Clint. Give me what for? I'm a wanted man, dead or alive. And I don't give a damn if it was 6 shots or 5. Well, he's been around forever. He's still number one. Hell, there ain't nobody better at holding a gun. And I thought about his movies, how you always learn your lesson, staring down the barrel of Clint's Smith & Wesson. Now that golden door of opportunity has been flung wide open for little old me. Make my day, blow me away, goddamn Dirty Harry Blues. Well, the closer we got to my fateful day, the more he'd stare and the less he'd say. I thought, this is only a movie, right? I couldn't help but feel something about this was a little too real. When they put on my makeup for the very last time, even the makeup girl said, it's a good day to die. Make my day, blow me away, goddamn Dirty Harry Blues. 30-30, 44. Pull that trigger, Clint. Give me what for? I'm a wanted man, dead or alive. And I don't give a damn if it was 6 shots or 5. Well, the sound man said we're rolling. Props gave him his gun. Someone yelled, action, take one. He slipped off his shades and he squinted those eyes. I tried to tell the truth, but all that came out were lies. I said my final line, Clint said his. Then he cocked back that hammer like he wasn't gonna miss. I wanted to cry like a baby, squeal like a pig. I was roasting like a marshmallow at the end of his twig. I was shaking like a leaf when his upper lip curled. When he pulled that trigger, I was leaving this world. I said, wait a minute. To hell with the Oscar and the Academy. That little gold statue would be wasted on me, 'cause my dream came true out in Hollywood when I got killed by Clint Eastwood. Make my day, blow me away, goddamn Dirty Harry. Make my day, blow me away, goddamn Dirty Harry. Make my day, blow me away, goddamn Dirty Harry blues.
That's great. That's fantastic. Jeff Daniels in our studios live in Washington, D.C. here on The Voice of America. Does Clint Eastwood know that you wrote a song about it? Has he heard it?
I believe he has. He hasn't contacted him yet. But one thing people, having worked with, the guy has got such a great sense of humor. And we had such a great time shooting that movie. And he kept trying. He was a big fan of Dumb and Dumber. Clint, the first time I met him, he said, I saw the movie. I said, well, I've done other movies. No. I thought it was hysterical. I mean, he just loved it. So he's one of the greats in the business, and I'm sure he's laughing about it.
And you work with some very funny people over your career. I mean, Robin Williams, not once but twice. Mm-hmm. And you've worked with Jim Carrey. You've worked with a lot of very funny people, and you're a funny guy yourself. I mean, humor is a large part of what you do. And not all your film roles have been comedies. You've also done a lot of dramas and got tremendous accolades for that as well. Do you have a favorite place, a comfort zone where you like to be more so than?
Well, I think actors can not anybody, but the first thing you can do is drama. Mm-hmm. You can get away with more. You can stare off into the sunset knowing that they're going to lay violins underneath of it, and you can think about, I don't know, what you're going to eat tonight. And just know that if you're lit well and they got the right music underneath you, you might get nominated for an Oscar. So, but with comedy, it's you're either funny or you're not. Mm-hmm. And with film, you kind of you do it, and then other people get their hands on it. And if they do well and they have comic timing, which is something you're born with, you can't develop that. It'll end up being funny a year later. You certainly understand, playing guitar in front of people or being in a Broadway play that is a comedy. You find out right away whether you're funny or not, and that's there are people who can do that, and there are people who can't. And I'm very happy to be one of the many actors who can do both. Do you want to make? You made several movies where you actually did some performing, some singing. Do you want to make more? Do you want to have like a Jeff Bridges kind of an opportunity where it's? Well, I think what Bridges did in Crazy Heart was just great, and I know he loves playing, and it's good for him. I was very happy for him that he got to do that. I'm developing something at Showtime, and if that comes through, then I may have a guitar in my hands a little bit, but we'll see. It's not. What I love doing is just walking out with a guitar and sitting down in front of 50 or 500, doesn't matter, 1,000 people, doesn't matter. It's still an audience, and there's still a connection that has to be made, and the creative challenge of trying to do that with no band and with your material. With a bunch of strangers tonight. That'll never get old for me. Now you are, a lot of people don't realize this. Jeff is, a superstar, but a down-to-earth kind of guy with pet pigs. You married your high school sweetheart. When you're still married to this 31 day. Years, yeah. That's amazing. Raising a family. You're a hockey coach. Well, my boys went through travel hockey. I moved back to Michigan after 10 years in New York City of Broadway and off-Broadway, and then had some movies, about 3 or 4 movies. We moved back to Michigan in 1986 and raised the kids there. And I kept expecting the career to end. Mm-hmm. They do. On Tuesday you find out that you're over. Mm-hmm. No one calls you. You just, what do you mean I'm over? And that's that. So I just figured that when that happens, mm-hmm. I'll be home. And, then I did Dumb and Dumber and bought another 20 years. It's amazing how an actor can, like yourself, remain relevant. I think that's the whole truth. Yeah. Yeah. And now it's interesting, because I'm in my 50s now, and there are still many opportunities in movies, but certainly in television. I think it's a new era with all of the cable networks. The writers and the actors are heading that way because that's where you're given the freedom to kind of truly create, and the boundaries are very few, if any. And so that's a wonderful place to be. But yeah, you know you're getting older when you're standing on a movie set and you're making about $20 to play the jerk father of some kid who's 25 making $5 million and wants acting advice. Yeah, that's time to pick up the guitar and go, I'm going to write a song about him.
Don't cross Jeff.
Yeah.
Now, you had a film, I don't know if it's coming out this year or next year, called Howl. You've done a new film?
Yeah, a movie called Howl. It's Allen Ginsberg, the story of Ginsberg when he was, kind of a poet, but a revolutionary in the 60s. And James Franco plays Ginsberg. And they shot it in New York last spring, and a bunch of us got together, and they grabbed a bunch of us, Bob Balaban, David Strathairn, John Hamm, Mary Louise Parker, and had us come in and do 3 scenes. And so I've got a scene in it where I'm kind of trying to put Ginsberg away, in a court of law. But yeah, it was good. It's a good script.
And you've got 2 CDs. Any plans for another one? The latest is a live and unplugged, Jeff Daniels live. But
live at the Purple Rose, yeah. And it's jeffdaniels.com is where people can sample it and download this stuff. And all the proceeds that I might make from the CDs go to my theater company, the Purple Rose Theater Company in Chelsea, Michigan.
Why did you call it the Purple Rose?
Well, I did a movie with Woody Allen called The Purple Rose of Cairo. And I was 30, and I had been in New York about 9 years, and I still was kind of, is this going to work? Am I going to be over on Tuesday? And halfway through that movie, Woody told me I was good. And for a young actor to be told by somebody of that stature as a filmmaker, I went home and I remember telling my wife, Kathleen, I just said, I'm going to be able to make a living in this business because if I'm good enough for Woody, I'm good enough for anybody. And it was a turning point. So years later, to name the theater, how about we name it Jeff Daniels? No. Let's call it Purple Rose.
Now, you're a director, too?
I have. Hate it.
You hate that part of it?
Less interested in, because they come to you with all these questions, especially in a movie set. They'll come to you, do you like the red sweater with the blue buttons or the blue sweater with the red buttons? And you're going to go, don't care.
Right.
Again, back to Clint Eastwood. When I did with Clint, and Clint directed it, I remember going to Clint, Clint, I have a brown jacket or a black jacket I can wear. And he goes, which one do you like? I guess the brown one. Sounds like the brown one. That was it. So I that's the kind of director I am when I, have to do it.
Now, you've mentioned Clint Eastwood and several other folks, Woody Allen. Who has had the most profound effect on your career, whether it be music or theater? It can be relatives. It can be people you've worked with. Who's really touched your spot?
Well, it's hard to live a creative life and to stick to it. And so many, even back when I started out in the mid-'70s, and particularly now with the short attention span of all of us, but in particular the young kids, it's hard to find something and stick to it. But you need people along the way in whatever you do to believe in you. And if I hadn't had Marshall W. Mason and Lanford Wilson, who were the 2 guys that were instrumental in an off-Broadway theater company called Circle Repertory Company. Marshall found me in a college production and took me out, and I was 21 and green and Midwest, didn't know what I was doing. I was good at it, but I didn't know why I was good at it. And he said, well, you know what you should do with your life, don't you? And now that I'm older, it is a lifelong job. And it's very easy to, with the peaks and valleys of certainly a creative life, whether it's in whatever art form, to bail on it and to take the safe route. And I admire guys like Marshall and Lanford and, again, the songwriters that I mentioned, actors that have stayed and don't do the plastic surgery and allow themselves to age and play those great roles. You look back to the Jimmy Stewarts, guys like that, Spencer Tracy's, the Gables, they just kind of did it for decades. And anybody who's done it for decades, who has a longevity in whatever art form, they're an influence.
I got a few emails from the troops when I mentioned you were coming on. They wanted me to ask on their behalf, what's been the highlight for you?
Well, there have been a bunch of them, but certainly in Dumb and Dumber, I had agents screaming at me not to do that movie. The night before I was supposed to fly out you cannot, this will end your career. So I ignored them, of course, and went. And to work with Jim Carrey and to see the precision that guy does when it comes to comedy and the way he executes it was great. But another turning point, another highlight, if you will, was also a crossroads, which was the toilet scene in Dumb and Dumber. Because you're in a movie with Jim Carrey, and you know that go big or go home. So here comes the toilet scene, and I've been in New York, I've done Broadway, but still, here I am, I'm about to do and I went to Pete and Bobby Farrelly, the directors and writers, and I said, guys, this is either the beginning of my career or the end of it. And they go, no, it's going to be great, man. It's going to be great. You just go all the way. Go all the way, Jeff. And we have takes that were 2 minutes long. Put a clock on it. Just stare at your watch for 2 minutes. That's how long I was on the toilet in that particular endless. There was one shot in that sequence that made the movie where it's a close-up where you can see my face blood red with kind of, tension. I weave a little bit, and that's me almost passing out. I almost made myself pass out. So, to the troops, certainly that's a highlight.
Of course, Blazing Saddles helped pave the way for that bit of film history.
That was just something that we had to overcome.
Right.
That was the ultimate flatulence scene. I said, we've got to beat it. And the Farrelly said, we got to do better than Blazing Saddles,
That's
man.
it.
I said, okay, it's up to you, Jeff. Rolling, so.
And I'll bet you people come up to you to this day and say, the tongue on the pole and the
Yeah.
ski.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. Jeff Daniels, what a great career. Now, musically, because that's what you're doing now and that's what you're kind of focused on now is the music part of your life, I'd like to get you to do another song.
Okay.
What do you think you're going to do for us this time?
Here's a song. Neil Sedaka, years and years ago, wrote a breakup song called Breaking Up Is Hard to Do. I've written one called Baby, Take Your Tongue Out of My Mouth, I'm Kissing You Goodbye. You walk in, I walk out. We ain't got nothing we can talk about, baby. Take your tongue out of my mouth, I'm kissing you goodbye. I don't know where you've been, but you've been passed around lately like a bottle of gin. Take your tongue out of my mouth, I'm kissing you goodbye. Said I loved you and you said I love me too. Then the next thing I know you're wearing round heel shoes. Take your tongue out of my mouth, I'm kissing you goodbye. I made the money, honey, you made the rounds, but baby you can't buy nothing unless you put something down. Take your tongue out of my mouth, I'm kissing you goodbye. If love means never having to say you're sorry, I apologize. Whoever said it's better to have loved and lost than never loved at all ought to give you a call. I may be a fool, but I ain't fooling around. Oh, you don't kick a dog when that dog is down. Take your tongue out of my mouth, I'm kissing you goodbye. Take your tongue out of my mouth, well, I'm kissing you goodbye.
Jeff Daniels, the University of Michigan called and they want their diploma back, their doctorate back. Dr. Jeff Daniels, our guest here on The Voice of America, an actor, a singer, a guy who's also giving a lot back. You recorded a lot of announcements, public service announcements, use your fame to help out your home state, Michigan. I know the economy is really, I mean, I'm from Michigan too, and I know that people there are suffering big time, the auto industry and whatnot, and you have really been promoting your state of, Michigan. So, I mean, that's great.
We relied heavily on the American auto industry, which made some mistakes of its own over the last 20, 30 years, in my opinion. However, yeah, when the economy went south, Michigan went into a depression, not a recession. So we're climbing out of it, and it was a great way to kind of use the celebrity to maybe hopefully not only attract some business, but create jobs in the state.
That's great. That's, I thank you on behalf of the other residents of Michigan, And so, Jeff Daniels, what a pleasure to meet you and have you in our studios. I know it's a long time in the works. 3 years ago, I first contacted you guys.
Well, I'm glad I made it.
So am I. And if you want to say hi to the troops, I know they'd love to have a shout out from you because they're all tuned in right now.
Big fan of the troops. Thanks for everything that all of you are doing. And, Dumb and Dumber never gets old. And, if you're feeling down, if you're, missing home, have a laugh on me and Jim.
All right. And the website again, if people want to check out your new CD and buy a copy of the new CD is?
JeffDaniels.com, and they can download it right off the website.
Just got an email from Germany, and a listener wants to know, are you coming internationally to tour?
We've talked about it, and I think eventually I will. I have no plans in the near future, but I think that's I want to go through Europe and have some fun. Yeah.
Excellent. JeffDaniels.com, that's the website. Check it out. Get a copy of the new CD in time for the holidays. Jeff, we're looking forward to seeing Howl when it comes out, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Larry.
On our program. This is The Voice of America. I'm Larry London. Stick around. There's more music to come.